Welcome to the DevReady Podcast, where we're helping non-techs build better tech. Today, we're lucky enough to be joined by Simon Madden. Simon Madden, if you're in Melbourne, you'll know of him. Ex-Essendon footballer, the captain, the Essendon Footy Club back in the day, I recall. Ex-AFL Players Association director, currently director of the Essendon Footy Club as well. But first and foremost, I had a chat to Simon pre-Christmas, and we're talking about his consulting business, which is all focused on high-performance culture and how we can get our people to perform better. And thought it'd be a great conversation to talk about with people that are building technology, because there's definitely a business that goes around it. So thank you, Simon, for joining us, and welcome to DevReady Podcast.
Andrew, thank you very much. Very happy to be here. I knew you had a beard, and I've got a holiday beard just to keep up with you. It'll probably be gone by after the weekend, but well, yeah.
You've done well, mate.
Very relaxed in holiday mode.
I enjoy it.
Good to see.
Good weather in Melbourne. I think it's been pretty nice come January, so it's worked out all right.
People complain about Victorian weather, but they don't spend enough time. It's beautiful.
Yeah, you get a bit of everything. Getting a bit of storms coming through, but not too bad. It's all warm. So in terms of getting on board, obviously not everyone will know about you, so give us a bit of background about who you are, your past experience, and where you are today.
Thanks so much. Just for the uninitiated, you have been in Melbourne all my life. I've did a lot of travel, seen a lot of the world, but have lived in Melbourne. I was originally a teacher by profession. I played high-level sport, played AFL football for the team Essendon, was successful, did that for 19 years, started very young, started when I was at school, 16 was my first game. It was you can't do that now, it's unbelievable.
Can't do that now, no, can you?
And then I lasted 19 years, so I was lucky enough to have success. I played in a couple of premierships, best and fairest, I could go down that track. But basically, in my time, you had to have a job. Towards the finish of my career, it was a lot harder. So to fit a job in football in there, it's full time, of course. But I was playing during the development years of full time. In that time, also the head of the Players Association. So really started getting involved in workplace, as far as sports workplace, but all understanding conditions in workplace. I was a teacher by profession. I did that for full time, part time, not at all. For 15 years, as footy got harder and harder, and then I moved out of teaching into business. A friend offered me a job. I was looking to get into business. Friend offered me a job in the IT world. Maybe there's a little bit of a connection there.
Yeah.
I spent 10 years in the IT world, and then had a couple of other opportunities in media and elsewhere. And then eventually, after a while, a friend said to me that, you should do this, talking about business coaching and consulting. And I said, why? And he went, da-da-da-da-da. And I thought, yeah, okay, this is interesting. So probably the business side is, I've lost count now, I think it's 25 years. So small, medium, large, national, international, my own business over that time. And I think what I say to people is that the combination of I understand education, understand high performance, and understand business. So I put the three of those together to come up with a consultancy practice that helps people understand high performance. And what I talk about is how to get good and stay good. And I can use a whole lot of examples how people can reach a peak very early and drop off, or they can struggle to get to that at any stage, or I know other people who reach a peak and stay there. And both in sport and business, and both in life and also in life, in their own personal life. And so I like to talk to people how, basically I say how to get good and stay good. And I work with the individual, the team, the leadership and the culture. So there's a short story long. Okay?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. So I'm just sharing where you're at. But get good, stay good, I think that's something most people are striving for. What's some of the things you've seen that the difference between people that get good, stay good, or the ones that sort of ebb and flow between performance?
Well, I think I noticed it in sport first, but I've also known this in business. When somebody, they strive to get good, so they do all the work and do all the hard work to get there. And once they get there, they haven't sort of realigned what their vision is, haven't realigned what their goals are. And all of a sudden they sort of go, what do I do next? How do I sustain this? And then I also see people be successful and get comfortable. And so,
that's a possibility.
I've heard the story of Seinfeld, a comedian, and apparently he was asked to go back to his old college and speak. And he really didn't want to, but eventually he happened to be there, and they got him there one day. And they wanted him to speak, and he simply got up there, looked at the crowd and said, do the work. Whether you're in football, whether in business, yes, you've got to do the work. And once you get there, you've still got to do the work. And I think in my time in sport, I always thought, probably every 3 years now, but every 4 or 5 years, you sort of go up a step. And I've always said to people in sport, and I think it relates to people in business too, what's the little bit extra you do? And the sporting analogy, I think, is very good for business, but if you do what everybody else is doing, you'll get what everybody else has got. So for the sports person, I go, now, what's that little bit extra? For me, when I was young, I had to do extra gym work. I was a skinny little thing. I had to do extra gym work. Once I got stronger, I had to keep working on the right side of my body. As I got older, I had to keep my fitness up to deal with the younger people. So in business, I say, what is that extra thing you're doing? Is it your marketing plan? Is it a better marketing plan? Is it a better CRM? Is it a better spiel? It is a better connection with your clients through lunches and dinners or podcasts, etc. What's the extra thing, or are you just going along? And because for a lot of people, mediocrity is comfort. Yes, they can do this, and they get along.
It's the easy way out.
Yeah, and we'll just
do what you know and keep it.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I always say to people, look, I'll give you an analogy I use a lot of time with people. Say I'm in Melbourne and I want to go to Sydney. Now, you can use any cities you want, but for me, say Melbourne, I want to go to Sydney. So I get in the car and I don't look at a street directory. I don't look at GPS. I don't look at my phone. Don't look at my car's GPS. Don't ask any directions. Don't look at any signs. And I just go. And I drive and drive and drive and drive. And it takes me a while, but eventually I get to this big town, a big town, and I go, oh, great, I'm in Sydney. But I can't see the Harbour Bridge, and I can't see the spire, and I can't see the Opera House. So I finally wind down the window, which was in the old days was one of those, but now it's just, wind down the window. I don't know, people understand, what does wind down your window mean?
Yeah, I know, some people don't know.
Wind down the window, and I finally speak to somebody and say, excuse me, is this Sydney? And they're like, no, this isn't Sydney. I said, this is Adelaide. And I go, well, I don't want to be in Adelaide, I want to be in Sydney. And he says, well, did you look at the street directory? You go, no. Did you look at the street signs? No. Did you use GPS? No. Did you ask any directions? No. Well, then why would you expect to be anywhere else? The point about that is that's where a lot of people run their life. They just go on and on, and there's no bigger plan. I don't know, and one of the things is, I always said, say you go to Sydney and you take the coastal road, and you get to, say, Merimbula or Pambula up there, and you sort of go, hang on, I don't want to go to Sydney anymore. I like this, I might stay here. That's fine. But you've sort of got there by going somewhere else or planning to go in that direction. And sometimes, you might get on the highway to Sydney and there's roadworks and it slows you down, or there's a detour. All those things, that's an analogy for what we do in our life. I think for people in business, personal life and sport is that you really have to have a really good goal and a vision of where you want to go. And then you've got to put a plan in place on how to get there. And the whole story is if you get knocked down, you get up again. And, put up your hand if anybody's made a mistake. Let's just put that one down straight.
Yeah, everyone has. That's the reality.
Yeah,
I'll put up two hands.
Yeah, one of the great things about being successful is that you learn how to fail in the process of learning how to succeed. And a lot of times failure is not, it shouldn't be seen as failure, it's a learning process. And Edison said, it didn't take me 1,000, Edison said it didn't take me 1,000 times to fail to get one light globe. I found 1,000 ways not to do a light globe. Michael Jordan says, I failed so many times to be successful. And you've got to have an attitude of improvement, an attitude of, I know where I want to get, and yes, I'll get knocked down, but I've got to get up. Now, I know sometimes people in life get knocked down too many times, and I know the world's not fair, but we can all work on making the world a little bit fairer, and we all can work on helping somebody get to where they want to go. And I think that's, I really enjoy my job, is helping people improve and getting where they want to go.
Yeah, thanks for sharing some of those sort of stories. I think it sort of beats home how to understand that. But doing a little bit extra, I find, is intriguing because we can get comfortable in how we operate in life, in business, and just consistent in that, but that's not going to move us forward. That's only going to keep us where we are, if not send us backwards if things are evolving and changing around us. And we've all been exposed to all the changes that have been happening over the past few years. We can all see that everything changes pretty quickly, and in the space of technology that we're in, everything's just changing every minute. That's what it feels like at the moment. So you have to consistently do extra things, otherwise you're miles behind. So I find that intriguing.
Yeah, I think you talk about your audience being a technology audience, and I worked as a salesperson, but I worked in technology industry for 10 years. I think it was over that time. But I think one of the things through the COVID era, we've really found just the concept of more podcasts and more conversations and meetings via these mediums. But I think people are realising that there is a place for it, but what's the right balance? People are going to work. Are we going to work in the office 4 days a week or 3 days a week or the whole time or not at all? Yes, we can. Yes, we can have a meeting like this, but every now and then we need to get together. So one of the concept is, it's just a simple thing for any organisation out there. That what's that bit extra is how well are you utilising your technology in the right way to get your people connected, but at the same time get them to feel safe, at the same time get them to do the work you want them to do and the work they want to do. So, that's for business, and I wave my hands around a lot. What is the thing that you need to do in your business to make sure, because the idea is, remember your best resource is your people. Really look after people, and then, give them, and it's not just about, pay them well. I mean, a lot of the things coming out of COVID era is that people want more than money. They want flexibility. They want to be able to use technology as a medium. They want to be able to look really good up top and wear the pajama pants, whatever they want. So you've really, and I've always talked about in the modern era, and it's coming out of COVID, but I talked about this for COVID beforehand, is care in the workplace. And a lot of people think it's rubbing it back and go, you'll be okay. But care is CARE, consideration, affirmation, respect and empathy. When you make a decision, you consider the effect it's going to have all the people it does have effect on. So that could be your workers, it could be your clients, it could be your peers. Affirmation, sometimes in sport or in any business, sometimes just an acknowledgement of someone doing well, an affirmation, well done, that was good work, or gee, you worked hard or you put in a great effort, is a real motivator for them. R is respect. If you're not giving the respect due to people within the workplace, you're going to get your business in trouble anyway. And the big important one, I think, is stronger than ever within COVID is empathy. Understanding what people have been going through, understanding that they might want to work from home 2 or 3 days a week because that cuts out 6 times 45 minutes commute for them.
It makes a big difference, and everyone's learnt that so there is a way to operate remotely and still be productive.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And remember, and in some jobs you still have to do this, but historically, work is a place you went. Now work is actually something you do. It doesn't have to be in the same place all the time.
It's a big change.
Like even the teacher has to be in the classroom, have to be somewhere, has also been at home.
I know the whole dynamic has changed.
But a lot of people can do their work. I mean, I know people who've I know somebody's rented a house in the Blue Mountains because they wanted to try and live there. I know somebody's bought a house in Queensland from Melbourne. And people are working remotely. I said, I'm in my beach house, or holiday, not quite near the beach, holiday house in Morning Peninsula, and we can still do this. I could do it at home. I mean, I've been working from home for 13 years, 12 years.
I see, well practiced. You're one of those.
You made the change before.
A little thing for people working from home is that you actually have 2 ways of working from home. You actually have a place, an office with a desk, and you put work clothes on, and that's in the office. Or you go and sit on the couch and work in your pajamas. That's working at home. So even at home, you can actually split it into really formal and informal, and so that makes sure that people don't feel they're always on. I'm always on all the time. Can actually even work that way as well.
Yeah, we told everyone when we started with the lockdowns, it's when you're working, just treat that bit like work, and then leave that room don't go into it for the rest of the day when you're not working. Keep it separate.
And people said, I haven't got an office. Well, we know there's a table, or even I know people at this end of the kitchen table is the office, and that end of the kitchen table is not. So there's in your own home, there's a designated space. people, when you get up, you put your work clothes on. So you actually think, yes, I'm in work. And then when you get to 5:30 or 5, you go and put your trackies back on. Whatever it is, you've got to really delineate your time so it doesn't. And this is one of the things, you think about who people are spending. And I know people who spend 45 minutes in the morning commuting, 45 minutes commuting afterwards, have had to get kids to school. What if they didn't have that 2 or 3 days a week? And think about they could still have an extra hour of productivity that day at work and have an extra hour at home.
Yeah, it's a big difference for them personally.
Yeah. I'm not advocating to do that every day because I think for culture needs to be built on people getting together occasionally. But I understand that you could really balance that within a workplace so that, yes, we get together and understand our culture. And there's, one of the things with meetings is that online is that you can't have those constructive side conversations at the same time as the main conversation because people cut each other out.
Yeah, that doesn't work. That's one thing. That's the one thing I miss because you can have those little chats on the side about certain sort of topic, but you can't do it. It's not easy to do online.
Yeah. We're getting better at that, and I know. Like I think I know. So for a board meeting with the Essendon Footy Club, I'm on a board of a charity called Regain Life Focus, and to have a live board meeting, you can get there early and have a bit of a chat and catch up with people. And then when it's finished, you can actually hang around and say, now, hang on, that point, Bill talked about that point that wasn't clear. Now, you can do that online, but it's much harder to organise. People go, hang on, they're having a little side conversation. What does that mean? We're in the natural flow of the world. That's just taken for granted that people do that. So, again, it's really thinking on how you can get that balance in the modern world.
Yeah, I think... a lot of people have gone 100% virtual. Our business is now 100% virtual pretty much. And I still find that you still need a bit of the face-to-face. Or you need to really sort of break away your approach to how you block time out with team and get really strategic around how you're balancing that because...
I think, I think one of the things coming out of... COVID is, or in and out of the different COVID is I've had a chance. So what I have enjoyed is real people in real life, in real time. And I think we still, people still need that. And I know, depending on which expert you speak to or read, being online is much more productive. And then being online is not, but in some industries, being online is not that productive because people are burning out because of it. And so, and the lockdowns haven't helped at all. So in a normal world where you could go out and go for a walk in the morning and come back and then be online, I think as I said, there is a balance. But it's you talk about it's probably harder, and we haven't had enough experience in having deep conversations online. Where and what I know, again, one of the things about playing high level sport and being successful is you get to a point where you can have really hard conversations, and they're not personal; they're taken as professional. And people, you can actually talk about someone's performance, about improving it, and it not being up to scratch. But it's taken in a professional manner, not in a personal manner. And I think they're a little bit harder to have online. That's you have to eyeball people in the room when that happens. But I've been part of that in high level sport, and I've been part of that in the workplace as well. And when you are actually getting a caring culture, and I talk about that. I have a little it's a presentation, but I do about the 12 commandments of organisational success. And one of those is care, but there's a whole lot of other things. But you're being able to get a caring and committed workforce is really good, and that's when you can have those conversations. But if it's a us against them mentality from the workers to the boss, or I'm being motivated individually and not as collectively, and I've been in sales forces where you have a individual, motivation, financial. Incentive, and then you also have a group one, and they can be connected or disconnected. And I've seen how just doing the money can actually split people, and internal competition can be good, but it has to understand what it's for and why it's there. But just he did this and got that money, and she didn't got money, and I did the same, and I didn't get any. What are you doing? All of a sudden, you're splitting what the workplace is doing, the culture.
Yeah, it's an interesting balance there, isn't it?
That one's a challenge when they're fighting for money out of the same bucket, rather than trying to work together. They're competing in silos.
Yeah, and sometimes, sometimes it's not the workers' fault; it's the leader's fault. And remember, I've said before, and there's a big difference. both roles are really important, leadership and management, right? They're both important, but they're different skills. And the best way to explain to people, I say management gets your ducks in a row and keeps your ducks in a row. Leadership takes your ducks somewhere. And one of the things that I've heard before, and if I remember the original, I can't remember the author, I'll have to go back and look, but good leaders take people where they want to go. Great leaders take people where they don't want to go, but where they should be. And the management
makes sense.
Keeping in water while they do that. So the skills are very important, but they're two sets. And one of the problems we do with people, culture, and leadership is that we pick somebody who's very good operationally, and then we promote them into a position of leadership, which is different skills.
Very different skills.
And I've seen this saying sales first. I've seen it in an operations group where you take the best salesperson, make them sales manager, or you lose a good salesperson. You haven't given them the leadership training. They don't understand what it is, and the whole thing falls apart. And you don't know why. And in the end, under pressure, the leader goes, "Well, sell like I did," because that was a good salesperson. And
that's what works, yeah.
There's some processes that are the same, but everybody's got their own personality to sales. So that's where you do need for people to understand what leadership entails and the skills involved in it. And I've done that. I've done presentations to organisations about. And funny enough, I try as again. It's to try. It's not commandments this time, but it's the 12 parts of 12 parts of good leadership and what you need to do in a modern world. And again, it's about a really big part of that is understanding the people, really understanding them. And then, and I think one really interesting. I'm in the. I normally, people say, "How old are you?" I can do that little trick and say, "Look, I'm closer to 50. I'm closer to 60 than I am to 50." Which is true. I'm 64, but I'm still telling the truth. I'm closer to 60.
Smart way to do it.
It's about 56 or 7 or something. So,
Are you closer to 30 than you are 22?
That's right. Exactly right. You do it any way you like, and what have I got? Oh yeah, because I'm on the dark side of 60, and people sort of say, "Oh, the kids these days, young people, they don't understand." I said, "Look, I've seen this again with young people in sport. I've seen this in the workplace. If I say to somebody, do this, and they go, why? And I say, because I say so, and I was brought up with that as a young person, they'll say either directly or indirectly, I won't, because I say so. And you're on an even ground. But if you say to somebody, do this, and they go, why? And you go, well, for you this, for me this, the organisation this, and the greater good, and they get it, they'll do better at it. But they won't do it blindly. And blame people like me and my wife and our friends because we've educated our kids who are now adults. And the young people ask questions, educated, but why am I doing this? Mm-hmm. If you can't, you can't directly link the direction and the outcome to what they're doing. Well, why am I doing this? Am I building a brick wall that you're going to knock over? Am I going to dig a hole that you're just going to fill? Am I digging another hole to fill this? What's the outcome of this? What's in it for me, but more so what's the good value of this for me along the way and at the end? And what about, the organisation? What about the greater good? Because there's a lot of people now motivated by the greater good of the world within their workplace. So I'm not sure just the greater good things.
Yeah.
So how do you explain that?
I've found that in our business, where most of our people are, under 40. Yeah, that's where they sort of sit. So they're all about why. They ask a lot of questions, and as being a leader in the space, you have to really dig in and answer those questions. Sometimes you get frustrated by it, but you have to stop and say, yes, they need to understand why, because why are they going to do it, and why are they going to get involved and actually add value to it. So I get that totally, and
also,
I don't think
you can build that into the culture, understanding that. When we're doing things, yes, we explain it now. You might not get the explanation now. At some time, you will understand. Sometimes you're under pressure, and every now and then the buck has to stop somewhere. So, if the fire alarm goes off, we've got to get out of the building. Why? We can find out why later. Is it a fire? Is it a flood?
Just get out.
Whatever. Yeah, but it goes off. So now we'll find. So yes, but you've got to make sure they understand within the culture there is an explanation of what we're doing.
There's a time to find out and question and query. And there's, like you said, time to listen and just do it. And then being able to ask questions at any time is very important.
Yeah, and there's two, you have two ears and one mouth and use them in that proportion. And people say to me, you don't. Like, on some occasions I do. I do a lot of talking, but you do when you learn with your educating people and working with people. I say to people, look, I haven't got any answers. I've got a lot of questions that you have to answer and you have to think about and you have to deal with. And I really think that's important that leaders ask questions. Why are you doing this? How's it going? What's happening? The other thing too is about people with questions, especially in the workplace. The old stories, don't come to me with a problem, come to me with a solution, or at least an idea about how we can fix it. And what you want, and one of the great important things in the modern workforce is people who can think laterally and critically and look at a problem and say, yeah, we can work through this collaboratively working together on a problem, but not just, there's something wrong, you need to fix it. We're educating people now about how, as a group, we can,
solve problems collectively. Because as a group, you get much better answers than you do in your own head quickly out of a spur of a hat. So, I think if you can proactively solve problems, that can make a big difference too. If you're continuously doing that as a group.
And the other thing too, a lot of time again about high performance is it's not always about the outcome, because, and I'll give you, there's been experience with this too. But it's about effort. If you say that there was an experiment where they got a group of people and they did a test and they said, two groups, they split the group and said, one group, your outcome is no good because you're not smart enough. Then they did a bit of training and said, would you like to have another attempt? And a lot of them said no. For another group, they said, look, your outcome wasn't good, but we don't think your effort was good enough. Can you put in more effort? When they asked them again to have a go, they said yes. So
interesting.
Something about the motivation until you put in a really good effort. When you say to people, we know you're trying hard, you're really trying hard, keep at it, can be more motivational than actually the outcome itself. One of the things I don't say the word hate, I dislike, but even a little thing like you go into, especially in the cafes or restaurants or the services, when you say and somebody says, too easy. I feel like, well, hang on, I put a bit more effort in, please. Make it hard. And now it's different. No, I can easily do that for you, for me. But that's too easy. I said, geez, put in a bit more effort, please. Make it harder for yourself. So, even that concept, that's just, people aren't seeing that it's not what you do, it's what you do for me. So if you say it's easy, you say, that's easy to do. I can do that easily for you. It's a big difference in it's too easy. Just little ways of looking at the issue differently and making sure the person who is being involved is, I suppose, linked to it, sees important in it, feels valued in it. Remember, a workforce, people, again, the coffee industry, people want to be valued for who they are, not just what they do. And so a lot of places are finding it hard to get work because over time they've never been valued who they are. They've just been valued for clocking on and clocking off what they do. So you have to value people who they are. And when they feel valued for who they are, as well as what they do, they will actually be very good workers. They'll be productive workers for. And funny, you'll be more productive, you get more clients, you'll be more successful, and funny, your bottom line increases too. So if somebody wants to be motivated by the money, still same, look after your people. Get them productive, get them feeling that they're doing a good job. And then the results then you have to deal with giving them pay increases, but isn't that good if you've got enough money that you can?
That's a good problem to have, isn't it? When there's not enough money to pay them, that's another issue. Yeah, so that's a good problem. I find it fascinating. There's obviously psychology behind leadership and people, and everyone's different. How does that sort of come into the space of your thinking? Because not everyone's the same. Not everyone's going to act the same.
You don't expect people to be the same, but what you've got to do is you've got to understand, again, that empathy. If you understand them. Now, I know, again, in sport, you've got to be careful in the workplace. I know in sport, historically, where the coach could shout at one player, and that would motivate him to do better. And he would. And shout at another player next to him, and that he would be introverted and go into his shell and not perform at all. So understanding that on what actually motivates them. But in the modern workplace, you don't need to bully people, but they really need to understand how they really need to understand how they fit in and how they value. And a little bit of motivation every now and then, mate. You're doing a really good job. Keep up. It's really good. And I know you put, and also I know you put a lot of work into this. Go home early Friday. I want you to leave at 4 o'clock. Now I know you've been working after hours for for 2 weeks. Why don't you just go and, or even the little, I know workplaces, and again, it's all different.
It's about showing a bit of appreciation, yeah. So
they're being valued. The efforts are appreciated and valued.
Yeah, here's a voucher for dinner for 2 at the restaurant around the corner. Or, some little things like that, which you could give the people the money. Now, think about this, I always said, think about this and I like stories and analogies. If you got your friends to help you move house, so you got 10 friends, they work 2 days to move house, and you offer them $200 each, they would be insulted.
Probably.
Wouldn't, but it's nice to But if you said at the end of the 2 days, let's put on a barbecue, here's food, here's a feed, here's some drinks, thanks very much, really appreciate your help. They feel appreciated. Probably wouldn't cost you $200 a head anyway. Probably a lot less than that. And they think it's fantastic. And guess what? Next time you move, they'll help again.
I find that not like a money thing is not always a good motivation because it comes and goes pretty quickly. If you look at stats, I don't know the exact data, but most people, majority, are more impacted by experience and other things. It's not just financial.
Of course, it's important. Ask somebody who hasn't got it.
Yeah, there's an importance to it. Yes.
After a while, and there are people who there are people who are just motivated by money. I mean, rightly or wrongly, that's what they do.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And, so it's and money is not the root of all evil. The actual quote is the love of money is the root of all evil, which is different emphasis.
Slight difference, yeah.
Difference there. So money is important, but again, terrible thing to say in some ways. Like you could be a hitman and you get good money, but I don't really want to do that job.
Doesn't fit your values, right?
So people, if you can get people to do a job by, no, that's not enough. Oh, hang on, that's enough. I might do the job now. But most of the people want to deal with money is fairness, that they're getting the fair pay for what they're getting. And when I was Players Association president, we negotiated the first standard playing contract because it was about fairness, that good players were getting lots of money and the lower players weren't, and they would just be changed over. And so now every contract that a player signs is based on that standard playing contract, which again it's not about money, but it is about money, but it's about terms and conditions as well. And, one of the things with, are you for unions or against unions? In the perfect world, you wouldn't need a union because the company would actually look after you well. But in a lot of areas,
doesn't always happen though, does it? That's the reality.
Right, you need a union or you need an association. You need a representative for the workers because the people are exploited, and that's shown around the world all the time. So in a really good working, and I know people who pay above board. So for example, I know organisations that pay above board rates for people to show that they actually are valued. So there is a money bit to it, but usually you find a lot of those organisations too, the people are valued because of some of the perks they get. And I remember early on being in an organisation where you bought your own coffee. Now you reckon in the workplace you might actually
coffee machine. You'd think so, yeah.
Coffee, then it's tea, and if it's not tea, then it's not. But yes, we understand that. And also, it's productivity. That you can go in there, get a cup of tea, and come and sit down, rather than wandering out the shop and getting one and coming back and taking 4 times as long. So there's balance both ways.
Well, there's plenty in that, and people would think about when you're juggling that and understanding people. I think is one of the major things. So having empathy, digging in, understanding your people, what actually motivates them is highly important. Because I know just in our team, there's people that are they're polar opposites through the team, and everyone is motivated very differently, and everyone's behaviours to the business and why they're going to do things is very different. Some people ask questions, some people won't. So I've got to ask them questions, let alone. So yeah, everyone's different.
And all that's fine, but you've got to be able to, and look, you've got to be able to have give people individual time, and that's what I've said about it's probably easy to demarcate it virtually, but I think an open door policy is wrong. 24-hour a day, 7 days a week, open door policy you can't do. Because if somebody wants to have a private conversation in that office, then that door should be shut. And so if the boss or the manager has to do some work, that door might need to be closed so he won't be interrupted. An open door policy is when it's open, please come in. And when it's not open, there's another person who's, who needs important conversation, or I've got some important work to do. And there's no problems with that at all. People understand that. But it's handling expectations too. I always remember when my children played basketball, right? It was really interesting to watch parents and kids and coaches and basketball teams. And there are basketball teams that I can remember seeing basketball teams that they're elite, that we just pick the best players in the highest groups, and you can aspire to that. And if you get there, great. And if you don't, bad luck. Now, some people really appreciate that, really want to go down that. Other basketball teams will say, look, we're here for the kids to have a really good time. Yeah, winning's important, but it's not important. So we will share the best players across all the teams, and then we'll make sure we rotate people through. Neither is a problem if people understand what that team is doing. Because if you get a aspirational kid parent in a team that's going to make it nice and even, they'll get so frustrated. Right? They'll get so
That's a fair point. Yeah, it's managing expectations, like you said.
Yeah. And then if you get a let's have fun kid and parent and culture, but with a coach who's, I'm just going to put the best kids on, and kids are sitting on the sideline like it, they're going to be upset too. So it doesn't matter if the parents say, well, if this is a really aspirational one and my kid's not going to get caught to them, well, then I'll go somewhere else. That's fine. But you have to be really clear with what the expectations are. And I'm always big on making sure people understand what the expectations are. There's the non-negotiables. That's the term people talk, which I find is a funny word because everything in the world is negotiable. But in other words, what's the bottom line? What are the things? And I always talk about the concept of bullying. And bullying shouldn't happen in the workplace, full stop. But it does. But I see organisations work on their culture, and they say, for example, no bullying. Sticks on the wall. That's our culture. No bullying. But if you walk down the corridor and see someone getting bullied and go like this and not notice it, that's your culture.
Yeah, it's a complete opposite of what's on the wall, isn't it?
Yeah, having that there doesn't mean anything unless it's followed and valued.
Everything you do in the workplace, everything you do adds to, continues, or detracts from the culture you want. So if you say we don't have a bullying culture, but yet it happens, then that's the culture you've got. The real things that happen. So leaders have got to really be working consistently on what that culture is. And this is what I talk about getting good and staying good, is consistent, not just, let's do the review, tick all the boxes, beauty, let's do that again next year. Or let's have a chat with them once every month, once every 2 months. Yeah, that's done, tick the boxes. They've got to be aware to be able to make sure that you're constantly looking at keeping your culture at the high level that you want it to be. And if someone is doing the wrong thing, then you sit them down and say, look, hang on, do you understand that your behaviour, now remember, it's not the person. It's really good with kids. There are no bad kids unless you get, really bad. There's a very small, psychopaths that are born, very, very small. But the kids aren't bad, the behaviour's bad. So parents should say, you're a naughty kid. That's right, you're a bad kid. That's really bad motivation.
Yeah, it's not great language, is it?
Yeah, behaviour is not right. That's the wrong behaviour. Or we don't have that behaviour. So it's not the person that's wrong, the behaviour's wrong. And then the behaviour can be changed. And that's in a school, that's in workplace. That behaviour, if someone's been sexually harassed or someone's been bullied, or there seems that that's going to go down the line, you're able to say, that behaviour is the wrong behaviour in this workplace. We will not tolerate that. So it is sort of non-negotiable, but it's the bottom line, so to speak.
But it also takes the personal aspect out of it too, because it's the behaviour. It's the action. It's not the.
And the other thing, but also it's by picking out what the good behaviour is.
Hmm.
We've got our first grandchild, and it's really interesting to see our daughter.
Congratulations.
We've got another one on the way, so it just shows.
Nice. 2 for 1. 2 coming quickly.
Those are getting old, but it's really interesting to watch the daughter really work on, and even say to me, Dad, don't acknowledge his bad behaviour. We're going to acknowledge his good behaviour before the bad behaviour. Now, that's, if the kids are going to go stick their hand in the fire, you can't necessarily.
It's not going to work, is it?
Just ignore it.
But the concept of, yes, what's the behaviour we want? How do we promote that? How do we encourage it? And then at the same level, how do we stop behaviour that we don't want? And that's that's a really ongoing process. You continually monitor that and continue looking at it. And also, I mean, bottom line too, for the people who are motivated by money, risk analysis of your business. And if you've got a culture where people get bullied, that'll cost you a lot of money in the end. That'll cost you a court case. So, in the end, of course, money's important. You've got to make sure you understand where it fits into the big picture with the other thing.
Yeah. Yeah, people first, and then that flows on.
If you get it right, and I'm not saying it's easy, but it's something you have to continue working. And what's that little bit extra you're doing? Than just doing what everybody else does. You go full circle.
A great question there. What's that extra you're doing? And I think, like I said at the beginning, we can get stuck in the monotonous work and just continuously doing the same thing over and over again.
And that also goes to your personal life. A lot of time when I do individual executive coaching, it's business personal coaching. Because a lot of people, it's very hard to talk about your work and your business without including your personal life.
It's a bit of a mould and mix together. It's all one, isn't it?
And I always say to everybody, you are your best resource. So are you looking after your best resource? Because if you're not looking after you, how are you going to do your job right? How are you going to look after your family? How are you going to how are you going to enjoy life properly? So you are your best, resource. Make sure you look after it. And again, in fitness, what's that little bit extra you do? Now, I can't tell you what it is. Sometimes you can. You can, in a professional sport, you now analyse, you measure and you analyse, and so you're not strong enough, or your running style needs to improve. We need to increase your quickness off the mark. We're going to look at your running style. We know you're not strong enough, so you're going to do, and we need in the ruck when I played, you need bigger lats. So you need to be able to push up people. So you need to do specific exercises for that. So where other people might not be doing that, or you might have to do, you might have to increase your endurance training because you're really good off the mark, but it's not consistent over time. In the workplace, you can do that too. You can actually, and then at home, you go and have there's a whole lot of research to say people work themselves, and if you're doing and I'll forget actually when I read it last, the amount of hours, and I know it's definitely over 60, but it can even be over 50 and 45. If you're just say what we're going to say, if you're doing more than 55, 50 hours, 45. You're doing more than 45 hours of work a week. You are no more productive. You do more.
I think that studies, I've heard it before. I think it's 55, or is it?
Yeah, it might be 55.
I think it's 55. As soon as you go over that mark, you're done. You basically, there's no more productivity.
It's the same work into more hours.
Yeah, correct.
I'd even challenge you to say it might even be less than 55.
Yeah, I think it's the 50 mark, somewhere around there. But I think the whole piece of that is if we commit ourselves to saying we're going to work 70 hours a week, we cram we do as much as we can in that 70 hours a week, and you might find that you might not put as much pressure on yourself to get things done quick enough. If you only got 40 hours and that's what you've got, and you don't go over that, you'll find a way, and you have to find a way to be smarter and be more efficient and delegate better and different ways and manage better. So there's a lot in that too from that perspective.
Yeah. And there have been countries and cities and places and companies who have worked on doing 40 hours over 4 days.
Yeah, I've seen that, and it's good data from that. Actually.
12-hour days.
35 hours. So they're doing 3-day weekends. And in some places the jury's still out, but in some places it's showing that there's no less productivity for that company.
Yeah, it's interesting. And what's the happy? The happy mark is if I'm only working 4 days a week, I'm probably living a happier lifestyle, more balanced.
I always want to be, but that's the thing, at a workplace. What are you looking at to say? How can I? If you want them to be more productive, forget the whip, forget the whip and forget the carrot, because but you've got to think about parts of that. How do I push them? How do I motivate them to push them? And I remember, I'm just trying to think who told me. It was a really good one. It was. I've gone blank. Doesn't matter. About leadership's about sometimes you got to hug them, sometimes you got to push them. Right, and what's the right level of each? And with a footy team, you got to keep pushing them to see, but every now and then you got to hug them to say that's great. Now, in the workplace, that's another.
There's a balance there, right? So I think some of the some stats on that is, like, if you're doing really not doing really well as a business and an organisation, it's probably better to be hugging and be more with your team to build them up. And then if you're doing really well, sometimes you have to be a bit more pushy, apparently, because if you get too soft, then everyone just drops and you get that ebb and flow in the business. So you've got to manage that all the time. It's never perfect, though.
But so part of that too is how you handle people. So if I tell you to do something and you don't do it, you can go, but if I spend a little bit more time and you agree to do something, so we talk about and you agree to do it, and I'll give you the analogy again of sports analogies, just so Andrew, we're going to work on your kicking, right? Your teamwork's fantastic.
That's a perfect pick for me. I was never a great kick, so yeah.
Teamwork's fantastic. Your handball, if your fitness is up, it's all great, but we need to work on your kicking. So let's have a conversation. So what you've agreed to do, Andrew, what you've agreed to do is we'll do 10 minutes extra one-on-one kicking training after every session. Okay, you've agreed to that, right? Then we'll actually videotape you and well, I shouldn't say that. There's no videotape anymore for people. We'll
get the phone out, record.
We'll get vision of you and analyse it and get vision of somebody who's a really good kick and see if we can work on any biomechanics that might be able to improve. And then we'll get someone like, so for me, I'll say Matthew Lloyd, who is an Essendon player, great kick. We'll come in, get down and spend some time with you and discuss with him. Now, you've just done two things. You've put a process of improvement in place, but also you've done your due diligence. So if somebody does those three things and improves, fantastic. If they do those three things and don't improve, at the end of the year you can say, well, we're dropping off the list because you haven't improved. Or if you don't do those things, you say, well, mate, we've got to let you go because at no stage did you turn up to your training. You didn't take the videotape, a look at it, and you never went to the meeting with Matthew Lloyd. So you're doing two things at once. But the idea behind it is you're putting a process in place for their improvement. And then if they agree to it, then along the way, if they don't do it, you go, hang on, Andrew, you didn't do the kicking after training last night. Yeah, but hang on, you agreed to that, didn't you, Andrew? Yeah, well. Yeah,
and you can have a conversation and they hear it and they understand it, right?
Who's responsible for that, Andrew? You are, Andrew.
I am, yes.
My job is to be responsible to keep you responsible for what you have to do. That's what the leader's job is. That makes sense?
Yeah, it does. It makes plenty of sense. And plenty for people to think about in their context of how they're managing people and managing performance, because there's a lot in that. Simon, it's on 2:00, and I think it's been an awesome session just to talk about your experience and some of the stories and the journey you've been on. And there's plenty in this for people to take away. I'm sure that they'll get a lot of value out of this if they go through it. Maybe listen to it once or twice, because there's a lot of gold in this. Some good questions that people can be answering. So I really appreciate you coming on and just sharing. And I'd love to get you on at another time again, because there's plenty that you can share, obviously, from your experience and the plethora of experience that you have. So I really appreciate it. And let you get back to your holiday, mate.
Thank you.
No, if anybody's interested, put in the plugs, signman.com.au.
Yes, I was about to ask that question, but yeah, if anyone's,
we'll share all those links out when we post the episode.
Yeah.
I do a bit of emceeing. I'm doing interviewing, and I always say with some of the with the Essendonians, which is part of the Essendon Footy Club, I always say to any player, never miss an opportunity to promote something that needs to be promoted, whether it's charity, your business, or whatever. Yeah, so there you go. Signman.com.au. Did I say that?
You did, mate. No, thank you, Simon. We'll share it all out, mate, anyway, and we really appreciate you coming on.
Good on you, Andrew. Anthony, good on you. Enjoy 2022, and hopefully we might not be locked up again. We might
hopefully not.
Hopefully not, and hopefully we'll see each other again.
Yeah, good on you.
Thanks, Simon.
Right, thanks.